Hello YouTube, my name is James Wiggins. I'm the youth pastor out here at Blackjack Original Frugal Baptist Church. I decided to make this YouTube channel because I want to reach our kids. And if you know kids today, they are stuck to their phone, they're stuck to the internet, and so that's where you got to go to talk to them. One of the things I think this channel can do is it can keep our church connected even when we're not here at the physical church. For instance, I've got a little sheet over here that has some names on it for our local prayer list, or at least as far as the youth are concerned. Madeline Elks, she's got a knee injury, and so we need to pray for that. Keep her in mind. Anna Claire Hudson, I saw her this morning at FCA, and has a little strep throat issues going on, so we'll keep her in the prayers. And Randy Bowen, he had to go to the hospital this morning. He has scheduled surgery. So we'll pray for his health and his family members. I know he's got a loving wife and some granddaughters that are definitely worried about him, so keep them in your prayers. Also upcoming on May 26th, we have a Youth Sunday, and Harley Elks is going to be leading the devotion for that Sunday in front of the whole church. So keep her in your prayers. I know she's trying to come up with a good message for everybody that everyone will take to heart and will grow from. So public speaking's a pretty awkward thing to do. I'll tell you, monologuing to a computer is a pretty awkward thing to do too. But it's a calling. We have to talk to each other. We have to have dialogue and communication so that we can figure out the path we're on, and we can help each other on the journey. So besides expanding our prayer list, and I want you all to keep those people in your prayers, I want to also go over some stuff I've been reading on my devotions. And anybody who knows me, I guess we could add this to the prayer list as well, knows that I've recently, my wife has had a child, and it's a big change. There's a lot of changes going on. And anytime you're going through a big time of change, the stress level starts to build. And this is true no matter how big or small the changes in your life are, whether you're about to get your driver's license, or you're getting your first job, or you're dating somebody for the first time. All these little changes, all these stressors build up and build up and build up, and they make the world around you seem like it's flying by, and you're just holding on for dear life, and you're hoping that you make it through the ride. And so far, that's kind of what fatherhood has been like for me. I'm just holding on for dear life, hoping that I survive this ride, and more importantly, that my child Micah does too. So, but throughout this experience, there has been this constant build, and the hot topic word today is anxiety, 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 and you hear it a lot. And anxiety is real; it definitely is. But when I was growing up, we didn't use that word too often. We would call it stress, and you didn't really talk about these things, but they're real. And I have been having some building anxiety about being a father. It's a pretty big deal. So as I sit here and I just think about my child and being in charge of her protection and being in charge of keeping her safe along with her mothers, we share that responsibility. And when you think about that, it can be overwhelming. And you sit there and late at night, and you're trying to sleep, and you're like, is she breathing? And everything quiet down in the house, and you're holding your breath so you can hear if she's breathing. And when you do hear her make a noise, you're like, okay. And you can go to sleep for a second until she wakes up and starts crying and wants to eat or needs her diaper changed or something. And all that, with the lack of sleep and everything, can build up and build up. And so as I get more and more worn out this week, I've felt this scripture verse in my head. And it is something that my mom probably instilled in me. It's a psalm, and it's Psalm 46. It comes from Psalm 46:10. It's not the whole psalm, but it goes, "Be still and know that I am God." See, we get so busy in our day-to-day lives that sometimes we don't slow down. We don't sit back and say, all right, I'm not in control anyways. God is in control. I need to just do what is in my realm, my capacity to control. And if I can't control it, I shouldn't be worrying about it because there's nothing I can do anyways. And this brings us to my devotion today. My devotion is on Elijah. And in this story of Elijah, he's just combated the prophets of Baal, and he beat King Ahab, and he called down the fire from heaven that took up the offering, and then he ran off. And it's kind of funny, he did this great, powerful act, and then he runs away. And you can question that. That's a good point to question where he was at. But we've all been there. You know, when we're supposed to be at our most confident, when we've just succeeded most, sometimes we get scared that we'll fall. So Elijah, he runs from this really great task, this really great event that he just had for his life because they're trying to kill him. And he runs off into the desert, and he's on this journey to Mount Horeb, he calls it, and that was the northern tribe of Israel's name for Mount Sinai. And he travels to Mount Sinai, and when he gets there, he's telling God that he's pretty much given up. He feels like he's alone. He's the only prophet of God who's fighting the good fight. And as he's sitting there on the mountain, he's trying to hear God, and there's this earthquake that happens, and he doesn't hear God in the earthquake, and there's the wind and this fire, and there's all these things that happen that God's not in. So he's looking for God in these big, fantastic events, sort of like the fire from heaven that took up the offering, and he doesn't hear God in those. And then there's this still small voice. And it was in that still small voice that he actually does hear God. He hears God when he quiets himself and he starts listening for God. He stops trying to put God in different things, and he starts listening for where God really is. And when I went to school, and our professor was helping us study this section, he explained that in the Hebrew, that this word for still small voice, or this phrase, meant that it was a silence so tangible that you could cut it like butter. That it was a silence for where everything was silent, where you quieted the world around you and you focused on God, that you could hear him. And it just reminds me, be still and know that I am God. And when a world that's traveling 1,000 miles an hour, it is hard to quiet yourself down. It is hard to take a step back from everything that's going on around you and saying, all right, God, I'm listening to you now. There's a lot of background noise. There's a lot of feedback, and noise is anything that clutters and distracts you. Now, there's a lot of noise in people's lives. There's a lot of things going on that can distract them from speaking with God. So our job has to be to minimize the noise in our life, to minimize the background noise, and to cut it all back so that we can truly listen to God. And every time I hear be still and know that I am God, I do feel a little bit more grounded. So if anyone's, and I know there's a lot of people out there who are feeling the same way, if not worse than I am or have been, just say, be still. Just say that to yourself, be still and know that I am God. And you can say that prayer over and over again. And it's really, really something we all have to work on, because we think we know all the answers. We think we are in control of all the different things in our lives. But sometimes, to see the truth, we have to realize how not in control we are. And once you accept that, it makes dealing with the day-to-day a little bit easier. So, it's my advice today. Listen to that still small voice. And the only way to hear something still and small is to quiet down all the noise you're making and all the noise that's around you so that you can hear that. And we all have to look for God too, because I don't think a lot of us are trying to see God in the world. We put God in this little pocket for Wednesdays and Sundays, and if it's anything outside those days, God, know your role. You're getting too busy in my life. I don't want you. You're an inconvenience to me right now. I'm trying to do this or I'm trying to do that. But, wherever we're at, we need to be still and know that He is God. All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed this little talk we had. We can do all kinds of things up here. Just remember that prayer list. Keep those people in your prayers. And I will see y'all soon. Have a good day.